Vrising is a game about ruling the night and building your castle high and mighty. Unless you are playing on brutal difficulty. In this mode, blood drains faster than my will to live. Every single boss hits like a truck, and the sun's only purpose is to ruin your day. This is going to be one hell of a challenge, and it is only beginning. After making my best attempt at creating a handsome Squidward and picking the perfect name, I woke up in a coffin inside a nice and cozy crypt. From there, I stumbled my way to the tutorial area, crafted a bone sword, killed a bunch of ghouls and skellies, learned the basics of combat, and stepped outside into the actual world of vrising. The first order of business was to craft a set of bone guard armor and make a bone axe and a bone mace. So after murdering Bambi for a pair of boots and cutting down some innocent trees, I had to find a good place to build my base, someplace safe and close to important locations, which as it turns out is a pretty limited selection. Anyway, after looking around for a while, I ended up settling in a spot at the center of the woods, close enough to key locations, but far enough that I wouldn't have to fight something every 5 seconds. After placing down my castle heart, I had to lay down some floors and protect it by putting wooden walls all around it. And after placing 2 doors, my first castle was ready. Immediately I put it to use by crafting a comfy bed for myself, setting up a bunch of chests to store my stuff, and installing a mist braiser. The way this thing works is that you feed it bones and it produces a fog all around itself to protect you from the sunlight. Then I crafted a sawmill to transform wood into planks, which is an essential item for building and upgrading structures. Alongside that, I set up a simple workbench to enhance my gear. And here's how the main gameplay loop of vrising works. First, you track down a boss, or as the game calls them, V-Bloods. Then, after spending a couple of hours repeatedly dying and learning its moveset, you finally get lucky and manage to defeat it. Doing so unlocks new powers, forms, or even access to critical new buildings that you need to progress further. Anyway, the first boss is Alpha the White Wolf. He is essentially a stronger version of the regular wolves, but he is packing a lot more damage. Once you knock him down to half health, he enters an enraged state, and your best option is to run for your life, or you're gonna risk getting killed. He also has a leap attack that hits like a train and stuns you, but it's clearly telegraphed, so it's mostly just something you need to dodge. On the difficulty scale, I'll give this boss a 2 out of 10. After defeating each boss, you have to extract their blood, essentially gaining their power. The best part is that during the extraction animation, your character is invincible, so you don't have to worry about getting interrupted or killed. Killing Alpha the White Wolf grants you the ability to take on the form of a wolf, which boosts your movement speed by 60%. This is incredibly useful for traveling around the map quickly, and as an added bonus, while you are a wolf, the other wolves don't attack you, so you can just pass on with no trouble. And it also looks pretty cool. But my first objective was to kill 3 Weebloods, so 1 down and 2 to go. Next is Keely the Firestarter, but before taking her on, I had to deal with all her minions, otherwise they will interrupt the fight at the worst possible moment. As far as her moveset, it's pretty much what you expect. Volley shots, some quick dodging around the arena, and the usual archer tricks. But she does have one annoying move, where she goes invisible and reappears right next to you with an AoE Ice Blast that can shred your health bar if you're not careful. But thankfully in vrising, every boss drops a bunch of healing orbs when they reach their second phase, giving you a chance to heal up in the middle of the fight. Overall, I would rate her a 3 out of 10 on the difficulty scale. Defeating this boss unlocks the tannery, allowing you to craft leather, an essential material for upgrading your gear. It also gives you the ability to craft a cape, adding a nice touch of style and a bit of extra protection. Plus, with like every single boss in this game, taking her down unlocks new weapons and spells. Next up is Rufus the Foreman, a total pain of a boss. Just like the last one, he is also a ranged boss. He wields a crossbow, tosses nets, and summons a bunch of minions to keep you busy. When he gets enraged, he goes full on balls to the walls, shooting with relentless determination to turn you into a red mist. And he also gets increased damage, a lot of increased damage. This boss is also a 3 out of 10 difficulty wise, but taking him down unlocks the crossbow blueprint, my favorite weapon in the entire game. Anyway, after that I set up a furnace, a tannery and a research desk for discovering new stuff. Then I melted down the copper ores I mined a few minutes ago and crafted a copper crossbow, a copper mace and a brand new set of Night Stalker armor, which I immediately upgraded because even a vampire needs to look sharp while he's busy killing innocent people. Anyway, once I was done upgrading my gear, it was time to face Errol the Stonebreaker. The worst part about this guy is his ability to carpet half the arena in purple fire, and if you step into it, you'll take a ton of damage over time. But luckily my entire kit was about ranged combat, so it wasn't much of a problem for me. I would honestly rate this guy a 1 out of 10. Way too easy. After that I headed back home and upgraded my castle heart to level 2. The next objective was to swap out my flimsy wooden walls for some good old-fashioned stone, which as a bonus would slap a roof over my castle, meaning I wouldn't have to play tag with the sun anymore. But before that I had to build a grinder to turn simple stone into stone bricks, and of course that meant waiting a solid 10 minutes for the thing to do its job. This is also a good time to mention that the animations in this game are oddly satisfying, and the sound design absolutely top tier. Anyway, after what felt like an eternity, I finally had enough bricks to upgrade all of my walls, replace the floors with something that didn't look like a medieval shack, and even expanded my ever-growing lair. Next on the list was to build a castle waygate, which is basically just a fancy vampire teleporter, and as you can imagine it is incredibly useful for getting around. And I also upgraded my bed to a more comfortable one. Next I upgraded my castle storage and crafted a servant coffin. And then it was time to find a volunteer. Yeah, that's it, a volunteer. Someone willing to help me with stuff. Totally not slavery. It is just passive-aggressive recruiting. Anyway, I dragged my new volunteer back to the castle, tossed him into the chamber, and had to wait a few minutes for him to cook to a nice medium rare. While he was tenderizing, I figured I should use the time to expand my castle a bit more. But then, out of nowhere, this massive stone golem showed up, trying to kill me. It probably wanted revenge for me turning his relative into premium castle flooring. But fortunately, he moved slower than a turtle with a drinking problem, so a few well-placed shots later, and he was reunited with his lost family. When I got back, my new best friend was finally ready, and I decided to name him Seymour, purely out of sarcasm because he didn't see much. And also, he turned black for some reason. This video is gonna get demonetized. Anyway, after buying a few upgrade books from the shady book dealer and enhancing my gear, it was time to take care of the next boss, Grayson the Armourer. So after traveling to his camp and turning everything with a pulse into a fine red mist, I finally came face to face with the man himself. In my opinion, this is the first actually difficult boss fight. First off, he can cover half of the arena in traps, and if you step on one, you get damaged and slowed. So the best option is to keep your distance and use ranged attacks. But of course, he has a grappling hook to yank you right back into the danger zone. On top of that, after a few seconds, he summons an archer to back him up. But still, as long as I stayed careful, it wasn't too difficult to deal with. On the difficulty scale, I would give this guy a 4 out of 10. Two of the next bosses on my hit list were Gorsvine the Ravager and Lydia the Chaos Archer. At first I tried to take on Gorsvine at her own arena, but that was about as successful as trying to beat a rock in a staring contest. So I decided to switch gears and take on Lydia instead, and unfortunately that didn't go much better. But here's where things get interesting. While I was on my way back for a second crack at Lydia, something amazing happened. As I was busy fighting with Lydia, Gorsvine just appeared out of nowhere, and the two bosses started fighting each other. So I just stood there, popcorn in hand, watching this epic showdown unfold. And here's the best part: the game does not care who kills the boss. As long as I extract their blood, it counts as a kill. So in the end, I just walked in, stole both the kills like a pro, and walked away like the smooth coward I am. On the difficulty scale, they are both a 4 out of 10. After I got back, I set up a bunch of storage cabinets and made myself a leatherworking station, which is used to craft backpacks to increase your inventory slots. And to give the place some flair, I decorated the walls with some different colored torches. I also made a Devourer, which is basically a vampire-themed recycling bin. My next objective was to discover a way to make iron ingots, and for that to happen I had to kill the last boss of the first act. But before I could reach him I had to take down 5 more bosses, so here I go killing again. The first one on the list was Clive the Firestarter. His arena is inside a wide open sulfur mine, and because of my ego, I didn't have the patience to wait for the nightfall, so I marched in under the blazing sun, which as expected went about as well as a vampire beach vacation. So after waiting for it to get darker, I finally went in and got the kill with no problem. As far as his moveset goes, it is exactly what you would expect. He just explodes. Honestly, I don't have much more to say. I'd say this guy is a 2 out of 10 difficulty wise. And killing him unlocks the alchemy table, which is really useful because it gives you the ability to craft potions that boost your stats, and it is essential for later bosses. Next up is Finn the Fisherman, and this was a really odd boss fight. Unlike any other bosses that give you a critical blueprint or a powerful weapon, killing this guy just unlocks a fishing rod. Like seriously, he's just out here minding his own business, fishing in peace, and he doesn't bother anyone. But don't let that fool you. This dude has a massive monster in the middle of his arena, and if you stop moving for a few seconds, it will absolutely wreck you. Luckily, you can freeze the monster with frost spells, so it's not too difficult. It's a 3 out of 10 in my opinion. Next is Kodea the Ferocious bear, and honestly he's just a big angry bear, really easy to dodge, really easy to hit. He does have a lot of damage though, so you can't make too many mistakes, but as long as you keep your distance and don't get greedy with your attacks, he is just a giant punching bag with claws, a 2 out of 10 difficulty wise. But killing him does unlock the form of the bear, so this fight is not entirely pointless. I cannot say the same for the next boss, Nicholaus the Fallen, the first real roadblock in the game. This guy hits like a train, teleports all over the arena, summons a ridiculous amount of skeletons, and I seriously mean it, a ridiculous amount of skeletons. There are like 20 of them, and at some point he goes full on psycho, covering the entire arena in projectiles. He is definitely a 6 out of 10 on the difficulty scale, but killing him is 100% worth it, because he unlocks the first ultimate ability, and you actually get to choose between 2 spells. But I went with the spider one because it deals a shit ton of damage, and it also summons little spiders to keep the enemy busy. It's worth the pain. Next up is Polora the Feywalker, and boy, this was one tough fight, because when she reaches the second phase, she summons 2 fairy minions, and they are incredibly annoying, because they are constantly attacking you, and the real pain is the fact that they can heal each other as well as the boss, and even if you manage to kill them, they just respawn right back up. But if you block their attacks with the undead shield, you can summon minions of your own, which definitely helps. In the end, I was literally down to my 1 last HP, but I did manage to kill her, so we're good. Difficulty wise, she is also a 6 out of 10. Anyway, it's finally time for the last boss of the first act, Quincey the Bandit King. I mean, just imagine being a fearsome warlord ruling over an army of ruthless outlaws and your name is Quincey. And Quincey's parents have a real nice marriage. Anyway, this is actually why we needed the bear form from before, because regular weapons cannot destroy his camp's gate. As for Quincey himself, he may sound like a joke, but trust me, he is anything but. First of all, his damage output is insanely high, and pretty much all of his attacks have a damage over time effect, a buttload of damage over time. He has a shield that reflects your attacks, he summons minions, and if you stop paying attention for 1 second, bam, half of your health is gone. When he reaches his second phase, he just goes full on berserk, dashing around the arena like a mule on bath salt. And if he manages to hit you, that's it, goodbye. A seriously difficult boss fight, easily a 7 out of 10. But killing him is absolutely essential, because his blood unlocks everything you need to start the next chapter, including a new ultimate spell, which is incredibly strong against Weeblood. And just like that, the first act of the game was over. I even got an achievement for it, but there are still 3 more acts to go. So here's the problem. Vrising is a massive game, and if I try to fit this entire challenge into one video, it will be at least 2 hours long. And to prove my point, everything that happened in this video took effect in only the first area of the game, which is basically an advanced tutorial. So I'm gonna have to split this challenge into multiple parts. And trust me, the pain is only getting started.